that's how it looks when it comes off. And then I have to, which looks like nothing right now, then I have to do, so you just like rinse it like this. And then hopefully when you take it out, you can kind of see the pattern. So it's quite like a subtle greens and browns look on that one. And that's it. That is that process.
Oh, it's lovely.
Charlotte Banks, founder of Octavia Banks, set up her brand during the lockdown and with the help of her sister Elektra, opened up a studio in North London. Octavia Banks is supported by an all-female team who hand make and hand marble each piece using sustainable fabrics with an emphasis on natural fibres and reducing waste. With sustainability and creativity being at the core of her designs, Charlotte has consciously created unique collections, and it's easy to see why Octavia Banks has captured an audience on social media with over 40,000 followers. We met up with the LA-born sisters who grew up in Bristol, here in the UK, to find out a bit more about their journey.
So did you always want to have a fashion brand, or was it something that came out of demand?
I think I could fairly say that I pretty much always wanted to do this. But it came at a very different time than I would have ever expected. And that was just because of the situation in the lockdown. I just graduated like a few months before and I didn't have a job, but I was doing as much as I could on social media, like trying to get my stuff out to some stylists. And this one stylist I met, like, really loved something I'd made and wanted to commission me. And I'd never had anyone pay for a piece of clothing that I'd made before. And the particular thing that she wanted, I couldn't really recreate. But I was thinking about it and I messaged her and said, thought I could do like a marbled version. And she thought that sounded cute. And I was like, well, what colors do you want? And she picked a really cute color palette actually. And I put it onto social media and I was like, would anyone else like one? And I got a really like positive response just on Instagram.
And actually, when did you join the team?
I joined after I graduated, so June 2021.
Yeah, it wasn't like a formal discussion. It just like, she's my sister, and it just like roped her in.
Obviously, we started all of this with, I would say, zero knowledge of how to run a business. True. We've had to teach ourselves pretty much everything. Yeah. Charlotte started a website, then we all had to learn how to use it. And
it was really bad.
We had to learn how to use Instagram and send out emails to everyone and talk to stockists.
So what's the makeup of the duo? Is it you're the creative head and your operations? What?
Yeah. Essentially, yes. Yeah. That is basically literally it. Everything that I basically didn't want to do, Ellie does.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it works.
Like social media as well. Was like, that's really where she started out with like a lot of the social media, which has been a really important part of, and probably most small businesses, but we definitely like started out on Instagram, and that's still where like most of our like orders would come through.
And you were featured in Dazed. Was that when things started to pick up, or can you pinpoint another moment?
Well, I got reposted onto like Dazed's Instagram with like one of my original styles was this like ridiculous pair of pants. I called it Hollywood pants because I made them when I was on my first lockdown. Actually, I was in Hollywood. In the early days, I did these giveaways.
Oh yeah, back in the day, giveaways were a really
in the
good
lockdown
way.
Again. Everyone was just like, yeah. So obsessed. I did these little giveaways. That was really, really, really worked. We've tried it a few times recently. It doesn't really work like anymore. I think when you're like have a smaller following, people think they really, really have a chance of winning, so they actually enter. Yeah. So it like worked really well when we were just starting out.
So who is it that you think of when you're creating designs? Is it like the London It Girl, or is it LA-based girls?
I think about the London It Girl a lot because I love her, but I also think about like a real like 90s girl. I think about Rachel Green a lot. And the 90s has been super trendy, but that's always really been a reference point for me since before that, I would say.
Marbling was the first technique that you used. Yes. I think when I think back to marbling, I think maybe I did it in school. It was either food tech or art. Yeah. Why did you choose that as your first technique for your brand?
At uni on a fashion degree, you have to do a lot of research, and I was really focusing. All of my research was focused around the city of Florence and the Renaissance time. And something that kind of kept coming up in my research was hand marbled papers. I just thought it was something that had potential. I knew it could be done on fabric, but I just thought I could push it a little bit further. So one of the funnest parts is mixing the colors and coming up with the colorways. And I used to really often reference different paintings or different artists and kind of get color inspo from them, because it's not stealing, because once it's in garment swirly form, you would never know that it's so far removed from the original artwork. But it helps me sometimes guide me through colorways that are unexpected, because that's what artists are so good at.
So you've got a slime. Mm-hmm. What is the slime?
The slime is a thickening agent is basically added to the water, which helps the it just makes it so that the ink actually floats, because otherwise it's too heavy. And it's actually made of seaweed. Oh. It's called carrageenan, and it's made of seaweed, which is so actually it starts to stink. Oh. If you leave it out for too long, it gets really smelly.
So what colours are we using?
This was one of my oldest color palettes that it was popular, I think because it's got pops of bright color, but it's overall basically brownie olive. So it was still very wearable. And if an influencer wore a colorway, then I would just get loads of orders in that colorway. So even though everyone wanted one of a kind, I think people got overwhelmed by the color options. I was you can have anything you want. It was overwhelming for people. And I used to have a color swatch gallery on my website for people to get inspiration from.
So what's the best-selling colorway?
Maybe my original was the original one was invented by my first customer. She asked for I was like, what do you want? And she was like, can I have orange and brown and maybe a little bit of blue? Actually, that was such a beautiful colorway. That was really popular. I think it was because it was the first one. And it was the only one that I had a picture of. So everyone wanted it because they could see it in garment form. I think sometimes people see a swatch and they can't imagine it actually as a top. They need to see a top.
So it's no method, it's just anywhere.
There's no method, just put the ink down, just pipette and drop. If you squirt it hard, it goes beneath the surface of it'll sink below, and then you won't get a print because all the ink's below. So you just have to be gentle. Apart from being gentle, there's really nothing else to know. I think the hard part is recreating. So if someone sees one like this, they're all one of a kinds, but if someone's I've seen that and I want that one, I'm well, I made that one. I cannot make it exactly the same ever again. That's the beauty of it. And sometimes people would slightly miss the point of that. But I did get really good at recreating things to an extent. They're always going to be a different swirl pattern. Everything's going to be slightly different, but I got a lot better at recreating things. Okay, so basically, again, really no technique, but it does matter how, even though there's no technique, it does matter how you do it. If you swirl in a different way, you'll get a different result. And then basically and then you literally just do that. And then it takes a little while to absorb. It takes 2 minutes to absorb.
And does it not when you lift up, drip down?
Oh, I need a bucket. It does. So what you do is the fabric, this is a knitted fabric that I did on there, and then it gets soaked in a mordant, which opens up, it's a chemical that opens up the fibers so that it's receptive to the ink. Otherwise it would just wash off. But yeah, basically that's how it looks when it comes off. And then I have to, which looks like nothing right now, then I have to do, so you just rinse it like this. And there. And then hopefully when you take it out, you can kind of see the pattern. So it's quite a subtle greens and browns look on that one. And that's it. that is that process.
Yeah, it's lovely. This is the revenge dress then.
Yeah, I think this could definitely be classified as a revenge dress. Yeah, I think there was like 22 hours of like knitting in this. Like knitting and then like sewing in all the ends because you're color changing all the time, which produces like billions of loose ends. I guess this is probably my favorite piece from the collection.
Your core values of your business lay in sustainability. What's the process and why is it so important to you?
Obviously at uni, I mean, you couldn't study fashion and not learn a lot about how literally tragic the fashion industry is for the world. It's like the third or second highest like polluting industry in the world, and it's just like nothing's changing at the moment. Like everything's increasing so much. The amount of waste next year is going to be so much more than it was this year. Like it's insanely bad. How we actually then handle sustainability, that really goes through so many different streams. So in our like business model and in our production process. Everything is made like right here. I mean, for the first like year and a half, I've been doing this for like 2 years. So the first year and a half, everything was made by me and like my seamstress and my knitter in like this room. I wasn't just making clothes and then hoping someone would buy it. Like if someone wanted something, then I'd make it for them. And that just like reduces waste and a lot of other things. We now have a manufacturer for our t-shirts in North London, and I like go to the factory all the time, and it's just like it's not really behind closed doors.
As you have hopes to grow the company, how do you maintain the sustainable side?
If we're too hard on ourselves, we'll only like stunt our own growth. It's just about finding factories that you trust, trying to keep it local, making sure that your materials, like, so you may be manufacturing in London, but if all your materials have come in from China, that could also be problematic. So I'm using British mills as much as I can. You can't be perfect. Like, this is definitely what I'm learning. And I think it's about focusing on the areas of sustainability that call out to you as like they matter. There are lines that sometimes it's appropriate to cross, like, for example, using a synthetic fabric. Or instead of using a dead stock fabric, you might be able to find something secondhand or dead stock, so it's okay. Like, go buy a fabric that you love and make something amazing out of it. But I think it's fine sometimes.
And I think being just really transparent about it all the time.
Like, my sparkly yarn is just plastic, but I love it. It makes the clothes sparkly. And otherwise they're not sparkly, and for me, that's not like a sacrifice I'm willing to make. So they've got plastic in them. So it's just like, it's a balance, basically,
How do you also feel about accessibility in the sustainable fashion industry? Because a lot of the products are very expensive. So how do we get more people interested and want to buy when they really can't afford to buy?
We have kept it as accessible as we can, but it's not as cheap. You can get cheaper clothes. I hand dyed everything, made in London. It's like the fabric was made in London, screen printed sustainably. Like the amount that goes into it is a lot. So
we keep them as low as possible, but at the end of the day, if we want to run a sustainable company, we have to have some money to put into that.
I think it's really unfair for any of the blame to go on the consumer, but somehow the bigger companies are going to have to somehow market to us that it's cooler to like have less, but and maybe invest a little bit more. And we appreciate that investing more into clothing is not accessible to everyone. But what we're really talking about here is fast fashion and trends and people who are buying more clothes than what they need, and they're participating actively in the fashion scene. That's what needs to change. And whether that comes from the bigger companies, or if that comes from like the individual, I don't know. I think at the moment, all of the change is coming from individuals. There is so much talent going into creating a more sustainable process for fashion. So I feel like hopefully that will prosper.
When you pick up a garment and you look at it and you go, I need that right now. Just think about in 1 year, just one teeny tiny little year away. Are you going to wear it again? Are you going to wear it for one event and never wear it again? Are you going to wear it 4 times a week for the rest of your life? Is it going to fall apart in a month? Just like look at the garment, just think for maybe 30 seconds. Do I really, really want this?
Check yourself.
Just check yourself.
Yeah.
Just check in and be like, hey, do I actually need that?
And if you do need it to like slay all day, then fine.
Which is important. You do have to look cute at all times.
Yeah, like it's important to be cute. Everyone knows that.
But you can be cute in the clothes you bought a year ago.